Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on this very, very cold morning for the third meeting of the Howard County delegation. We have a number of bills to discuss, and so let's get started. I was going to kick it off with Delegate Watson and HOCO 4 license agreements notice requirements. Do you want to tell us about the bill, Delegate Watson?
Yes, I do. Thank you. This bill is a result of a situation, I think, that the county took. Somebody was on there. That the county, in pursuing ways to, I think, boost the budget and maybe provide additional income to the county, they made a decision to basically to lease a piece of property to a for-profit company in order to collect donations for the benefit of a charity. But the company is a for-profit company, meaning they take the donations and they sell them in their retail stores and they pocket the profit. They also make a donation to the charity in question, but I have been unable to get any kind of information on how that works or how much they donate. But the bottom line is that there is kind of a two-faceted issue. One, we are leasing prime residential area property to a for-profit company. Two, the for-profit company is permanently 24/7 anyway, placing a large tractor trailer body in the space in a residential area on the national road. And for that, the county reaps, I believe, in the neighborhood of $1,500 a month, $1,800 a month, something like that. So this happened in sort of the neighbors' minds. This happened overnight. All of a sudden, there was this big tractor trailer outside their windows collecting donations with staffing during the day. So I'm not arguing that the county shouldn't, be looking at different types of opportunities, but I do believe that there was no public process for this. There was no opportunity for public input. And had there been, I don't think the county would have placed this monstrosity in that space. I think it was a well-intentioned effort on the part of the county, but I think when we are entering into these kinds of things, we benefit from having public input, either from the elected officials, from the community, et cetera. So in setting that stage, I would just add one third component of this, which is in doing this, the county has given an advantage to a for-profit company over actual nonprofits that we have operating in our county, local county nonprofits, because local county nonprofits don't have the ability to place a collection trailer on this prime piece of property. And so we have many other nonprofits struggling to pay rent on Route 40 while we have this for-profit company sitting on a prime piece of real estate. And it's an unfair competitive advantage that we are advancing. So those are three components of this problem. I drafted a bill which said, if you're going to do this, you need to have public notice, and you need to have, and the amendment to the bill says you need to have a public hearing. So that is the issue. Technically, the county says this is a license and not a lease. And I believe there are some protections in place if it were to be a lease, but not if it is a license. Personally, I don't really understand why it is one and not the other. But that is the situation. So this legislation would apply to a license. So having said that, I'd like to sort of open it up for discussion and your thoughts, because I'm not saying this is the ultimate solution. I'm just saying this is the problem, this is the solution I came up with. And I'd love to hear the delegation's opinions and thoughts and questions.
Delegate Terrassa, do you mind if I wait just a minute and call on Mr. Moriarty, who had some thoughts
Well,
about?
Sorry,
Or
I'm sorry, Chairman.
you want to hear from the delegation
Yeah,
first?
I think that's a good idea. And then if you don't mind, I'll talk further about it.
Okay, all right. Well, hang on, Mr. Moriarty. We'll be back to you. Delegate Terrassa.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And Delegate Watson, I apologize. I did not hear all of what you said. I just got connected. But can you say that again about the lease versus what did you call it?
It's a
versus-
license.
It's a
What the
license.
county has done is provide a license to use this space in return for a monthly fee. And to me, in my mind, that's a lease. They're leasing this space, but for some reason it's called a license, and I'm not sure why or what the difference is.
And would your bill apply to that or wouldn't based on
It
what
would,
the language?
it would,
It-
because we apply it to license agreements.
Delegate,
License and not lease. Okay. And then I guess my question is, let me just pull the right bill, sorry. Maybe I should just let Delegate Hill and then because I do have another question, but I apologize. Give me a second and
No problem.
come back to
Delegate
me.
Hill.
Hi, thanks. So I actually have two questions for the county. One is to make the distinction between the license and the lease. And number two, how often are these requests received? In other words, if we're thinking that every time a request comes in and the county is considering doing it, it requires a hearing, I'd like to get a sense of how often we'd have the county having hearings over these requests.
Mr. Schefter, can you address that?
With regard to the number of times that the county's been approached for a license agreement of this nature, this is the only one that I'm aware of.
Okay.
However, there are other entities that do request at times to explore these sort of partnerships with the county. But this is the only one that I'm aware of that was involving the donation aspect and this sort of temporary trailer placement.
So again, if you can, I haven't had the privilege of serving on the county council. So you said you are approached with other kinds of partnership agreements that may or may not fall under this bill. Can you explain what those are? And again, the difference between a license and a lease?
As far as I'm aware, the way the bill reads, this would only apply. This bill would only apply to this very particular type of agreement where there's a placement of a trailer,
Commercial vehicle.
commercial vehicle. Thank you, Delegate. Within a certain distance of a roadway on county property. So I think it's pretty narrowly tailored. Whether there's a difference between a license and a lease agreement, it is very much a fact and legal driven sort of distinction. A lease creates an interest in land. A license is a use of land.
So what you all granted was a use of the land.
Yeah, that's correct. It's a
Okay.
license.
All right. And again, you said you're approached by other kinds. What are the other partnerships that you're often approached by? If this is the one and only time you've been approached about a license to use a piece of public property to place something on?
Just from my own experience, I've heard of private business entities asking if there's a way they could develop on county-owned land, if they could build stores or build housing or other commercial type uses. So those are the types of things. Typically, they see vacant land or large open parking lots and say, "Ooh, that would be an interesting place if we could do something."
And it's owned by the county. And so they come to the county and
So
say,
they come to the
we
county.
want to use the
Correct.
county. Okay, and your process for that generally is what? You just make those decisions. There's no public input. There's no zoning notice, or there's nothing. There's nothing that you all do.
If there was a development per se, then it would go through the normal public processes of land use and zoning through DPZ. If they required a change of use, for instance, then they would have to go through that process. If they needed some special zoning approval, that would have to go to a hearing examiner. Then that would go through a public process. But if it is a license agreement and it is less than a year in length, it typically does not have any formal public notice per se.
Madam Chair, can just ask?
Sure.
Okay, thank
ahead.
you. So
Mhm.
now I'm confused because you said this is the only license agreement you're aware of.
With regard to
Being
this
requested
particular
for this.
kind of use as it
So
relates to this bill.
I feel like all right, maybe I'm not asking the right questions. I'm not understanding. So what kind of license agreements do you generally do that you considered this to be similarly enough that you acted on it? And the second part is, what was the county's thought process of why this would be okay, particularly given Delegate Watson's point that we have not-for-profits who also could benefit from these donations?
I'll address the second part. The county was approached by this organization. Their representations were that these are donations that are taken in, and individuals will be able to receive a tax deduction for their charitable contribution, and then the proceeds of the sale of these items go to the American Red Cross. All of it sounded very positive. It was a very small footprint for this trailer to be placed, and it didn't raise any flags to the county that it would be problematic.
Okay, fair enough. And my understanding is that although they advertise that it goes to the Red Cross, they make a donation to the Red Cross, and most of the items, in terms of any value, they actually sell for their own benefit and profits. That it isn't like it's not a Red Cross donation site. They make a donation to Red Cross. Is that your understanding as well? So it's sort of misrepresenting, is I guess what I'm saying. Is that your understanding as well?
I wouldn't want to characterize it as a misrepresentation, but I understand how there is debate about that.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Delegate Teresa, you had a second question.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so for Mr. Schefter, maybe I missed it then. The question Delegate Hill was asking, I thought was, you said there are no other license requests like this. What are the ones that are not like this?
I would have to go and dig in to get more information.
Okay, because I'm sorry.
I don't have that.
Okay. Because what I understood you to say, like some of the examples you started giving were of like, if a developer wants to build something on the property, but that would be, would that be a license, or that would be
That would just be a use.
Probably be yeah.
but you have to have some agreement for the land, Delegate Watson.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it would really depend on the facts, right?
So the nonprofits, like at the nonprofit at the center, the name is, I'm drawing a
Home
blank.
of your own? Home of your own?
No, I'm just thinking of like the ones that off the end of Broken Land Parkway, which I'm just drawing.
Salvation
Collaborative.
Army, Goodwill.
Yeah, but that center, like any of those, that's done through a license. Is that what you're saying? Or those leases? Let me tell you what I'm getting at. I just want to make sure that when we do this, we're not making it harder for those folks, which I think is the opposite of Delegate Watson's
What folks?
intent. What?
I'm kind of confused about what you're talking about. What folks?
Okay, all of the other nonprofits, like I think your point was that these nonprofits are not benefiting from the same bargain that
Right,
that this
right.
private entity was.
Right.
So I think I mean, is this, I don't know what kind of agreements they have. I'm thinking of like ACS and Fern and not Fern, sorry.
So the bill
Sorry,
only,
Delegate Moreno. I'm still
Delegate
on Fern
Johnson.
times.
Nonprofit collaborative is what you're trying to remember, Jen.
Thank you. Thank you.
Jen, the bill only applies to for-profit
Okay, that helps. Thank you.
Yeah. for that reason.
Okay. Okay.
One other, Madam Chair, if I may, one other component, I told you there were three, there's actually four. One other component of this, the purpose of this is this was sort of a innocent thing on the part of the county, but as we are under more and more pressure to balance our budgets, there may be more requests for something like this that might be larger or longer or bigger, and we have no public process for it. So it's sort of precedent setting, what they have done, and we have no guardrails for it. So the idea was to put some guardrails around it, because we're not going to be able to count on, I mean, there'll be many different leaders in the future. Now, Madam Chair, if you could turn it back over for questions, and then I'll talk about the other aspect of this.
Okay, great. Thank you, Delegate Hill. Do you still have your
Yep,
hand
yep,
up?
I
You may
do.
have a
Thank you.
question. Okay.
So this is for Delegate Watson. The particular terms, once a week for 3 successive weeks, in at least one newspaper of general circulation, all of these things, were these based on something we're doing now? I mean,
Yes.
why not and explain that? Because I know, for instance, we've had a lot of things in government operations the past several years where, we speak to the fact that there really are very few general circulation notices, and it's sufficient to put it on the website, some local jurisdictions, or to put it in a digital ad. So we're drawing, explain to me why 3 successive weeks?
So we asked the drafter to look at other provisions, and this models sort of the county code in another area, and he can probably respond to exactly where that came from, but that's what we asked him to do, is this is how the county does it. Maybe, I'm not sure for what, if he wants to respond to that, Mr. Dariotti.
And why, right, and when you do, why 6 hours as opposed to 12 hours? Or, I can see someone putting something up at 8 in the morning to 8 at night.
The 6
So-
hours, I think, was just me putting that number in there.
Okay.
And like I said, the details of how we do this weren't as important to me as the discussion, and then maybe people massaging how we do it. But the other point to make that I want to make for Delegate Feldmark is she's unable to be here, but she questioned why we even need 1,000 feet in there, and why we don't just do this 1,000 feet of a residential area, why there isn't a public process for any licensing to a for-profit entity. And I think she probably has a point. I was trying to make it very narrow to make sure that this particular situation didn't happen. But her point was, why are we licensing to for-profit entities any public property without some kind of process? So
I'm going to call on myself and say that I do agree with that, in part because there have been supposedly charitable organizations that turn out to have really terrible reputations, and it can be hard to know that on the face of it. So yes, I think that a process actually makes a lot of sense.
Madam Chair, can we
Delegate Hill.
ask Mr. Moriarty to speak to the particular provisions and what variations there may be? And, we talked about 3 weeks. We talked about the newspaper as opposed to digital, because if we're talking about we're giving pretty specific about the process. I think we ought to consider.
We are. And Mr. Moriarty, also, you had shared that you think there's a problem with constitutionality with this unless we include another county or make it statewide. And I remember we ran into this last year, but I can't remember what the bill was that we ran into it with. But anyway, if you could share your thoughts and concerns and answer Delegate Hill's question.
Sure. So I guess I'll go in order of with how the questions were asked. In terms of the specific notice provisions, Delegate Hill, the 3 weeks, the newspaper, those are the provisions currently in place when the county is leasing property. So the same notice it mirrors the same notice in this instance for entering into a license agreement. In terms of the 6 continuous hours, that language comes from up here. Currently in the Howard County ordinances, there's a prohibition on parking a commercial vehicle for more than 6 continuous hours on any highway in the residential areas of the county. So the provision on page 2 of the bill that relates to this 6 continuous hour prohibition was intended to mirror that, in this case, within 1,000 feet of a residential area.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Mr. Sefter, we asked about what other license agreements you have, and you said you'd have to go back. Is that information that you can get to us in the next couple of days? I mean, because it would be nice to know if we're looking at creating a process, it would be nice to know what kind of license agreements beyond this one might be moving forward without a process. And if you do have a process internally, if you could share with us how these are evaluated and how the determinations are made, and even what the range the range of licensing fees that are being charged for these kinds of things.
I will do my very best to get you that information.
Thank
And
you. Thank
Mr.
you, Madam
Schefter, I
Chair.
don't believe we have, I could be wrong, but this may be the first for-profit license agreement the county has done. Is that possible?
It's possible. I don't know for certain.
Yeah, in exchange for a monthly fee. So that would be very helpful information to have, I agree.
Mr. Moriarty, can you also speak to your concerns about constitutionality?
Sure. So it's there's 2 parts of the bill, the 2 situations which would trigger this notice requirement, which is identical in each provision. The first situation is when the county enters into a license agreement with a for-profit entity that allows a commercial vehicle belonging to that entity to remain parked for more than 6 continuous hours within 1,000 feet of a residential area. Then separately, there's also a notice requirement trigger when the county enters into a license agreement with a for-profit entity that grants that entity the right to use county property. It so happens in this situation that both of those are the one case, but they are 2 distinct triggers. When I say we, I mean the Department of Legislative Services, we have a concern with the second provision on page 3, section 10.312 of the local government article, and that this would cause a home rule concern because it is applying to only one county, that being Howard County. And we also believe that this concern would be addressed by this provision applying to Howard County and at least one other county. There's no concern in relation to the land use 1,000 feet provision.
Okay. Is there a fix other than adding a county?
Another potential option would be to make it statewide. In terms of it just applying to, if your question, Madam Chair, is just to keep it only to Howard County, I would have to think about that. Nothing comes to mind in terms of altering this section in a county specific way.
Okay.
And Madam Chair, as we have discussed, we could request the county council to introduce a bill to do this. And Mr. Moriarty, that would be fine, right? If the county
Yes, there would be absolutely no home rule concern whatsoever if the county were to.
Yeah.
to
So I
do
think the options are
Yeah.
to see if we have a council member willing to do it, to consider adding another county, if we have a county willing to do it, or to go statewide. And we don't know if other counties have had this problem. But I think it's safe to say that it may become a problem in the future as we're struggling with budget issues. So with that, I mean, I think, Madam Chair, we should probably hold the bill, and members, especially the members that represent another county, I'd love to talk with you to see if you think your other county might be interested in doing this. In the meantime, I will also talk to council members to see if they are interested in pursuing this, and then we can circle back.
Absolutely. Yes, I think it's worth asking Montgomery County, for example, if they would be interested. I
Yes.
don't know if it's come up, but I think we can certainly find out. There seems to be, I get the sense that this seems like a good idea to most people, and that we should try and find a way to do it. I also think the county council route jumped to mind and
Yes.
seems like a good approach. All right, great. Thank you all so much for that discussion. And I would like to move on to Howard County 626. This is my bill. It's an illegal dumping bill. Delegate Terrassa was there at the creation of this idea. I had a very active group of interns who held a kind of Shark Tank pitch competition for what we do to address the illegal dumping problem in Howard County, which is incredibly expensive and horrible for the environment. Often the trash doesn't get picked up in time. It gets mowed into tiny little pieces. It ends up in our drains and our waterways, ultimately in the bay. And it's been a big constituent issue. I've heard a lot of complaints about it. And people dump extraordinary things, boats, biohazards. In 2024, I don't have the 2025 numbers, but as state highways spent $18 million picking up trash. And so it's really an incredible way. I can't say it's a waste of money. Obviously, we have to pick up the trash, but it would be great to do some things to stop it. So this bill is a pilot program with a 5-year sunset that would have state highways set up surveillance cameras at hotspots they're aware of. And the police would issue citations to people who were caught. So it would hopefully not, it's one of those things where you don't want to be making revenue, but it would certainly help to pay for the problem. And there are several places in Howard County that are particular hotspots. I-70 near the landfill is a bad one. But the bill allows the State Highway Administration to pick those sites and to move cameras around. We did this in conjunction with both the police department and the State Highway Administration. They are both very much on board and agree that this is a relatively easy fix, or at least should cut down on the problem. So what we did essentially was to add Howard County to Baltimore City's bill. Baltimore City's had a terrible problem with this as well, and they have been pretty successful in addressing it. So that is it in a nutshell. I should say that Mr. Schefter pointed out that there is, he would like to offer a small amendment, which I regard as a friendly amendment, and I'm perfectly happy to do. And that is that, so in the bill, generally speaking, when a person is given a citation and requests a court hearing, that request goes directly to the court. And then the issuing agency receives the notice. Our bill has that the other way around, that the request would go to the police department, and then the police department would send the request to the district court. That is cumbersome and difficult. So the amendment would just turn that around so that the recipient of the citation notifies the court instead of the police notifying the court, which is how criminal and parking citations are done. So I guess I would first ask for discussion on the bill. Delegate Terrassa?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Does that change? Is there a cost to this? Like who's paying for it? And does that change what the cost is?
So according to the police department, they have the cameras. We expect this to be
Oh.
revenue positive rather
Right.
than,
Oh, yeah. I meant in the filing.
oh, in the filing. I don't know the answer to that, Mr.
Like if they
Shepard.
file in the court, like doesn't that? I actually am surprised by the court piece. Yeah, although I see that it is. You're talking about somebody who complains about.
Right, they say I didn't do it. I want to appear in court. I want to contest this. I want to contest my citation.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So just the process for that. And I think Mr. Schefter's idea was to align it with parking citations and criminal citations so that it would be the same system. And we had it backwards.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion on the bill?
Move the amendment.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second,
Musa, do you want to call the roll?
Yes, this is the amendment to Howard County Bill 626. Delegate Kazoni,
Yes.
Delegate Hill,
Yes.
Delegate Moreno,
Yes.
Delegate Terrassa,
Yes.
Delegate Watson,
yes.
Delegate Wu,
He said yes, I heard him.
Yes, sorry. Chair Ziegler.
Yes.
The amendment passes.
Thank you. Move favorable on the bill.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Moriarty, is your question, can we call the roll or?
No, just would I be able to get a copy of the amendment?
Yes,
Yes, thank you.
absolutely. I'm sorry, Musa, go ahead.
This is the vote on House Code 626 as amended. Delegate Kazoni,
Yes.
Delegate Hill,
Yes.
Delegate Moreno,
Yes.
Delegate Terrassa,
Yes.
Delegate Watson,
Yes.
Delegate Wu.
Yeah.
Chair Ziegler.
Yes,
House Code 626 passes as amended.
great. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on. The next bill is HOCO 826, highways speed limits. Delegate Terrassa, do you want to explain the bill to us?
Yeah, I was just going to follow up on the questions from last week. So this bill is basically giving the county a tool, the same tool that Anne Arundel County and Montgomery County have to when the community is complaining and concerned about speeding on their small residential streets. I know we use the term highway, but highway is the term that is used to describe both larger and smaller streets. But it just gives them a tool to respond to community concern about speeding. I know that Delegate Watson had some questions. She wanted to know how this was working in other counties. I have not had a chance to speak directly with them, although we have requested information from them, but I did talk to both of the delegates that introduced both the Anne Arundel County and Montgomery County and several others from Anne Arundel County, and understand that in Montgomery County it has been used not excessively, and they don't know of any issues. And on the Anne Arundel County side, the only concern that I heard was that the county didn't seem to be aware of that as a tool. So the delegate that I spoke to about that particular thing said they had to bring that to the county to make them more aware of it. And that was the only problem that they've seen. I understand that concerns are raised about unintended consequences, but I don't understand that issue particularly. I mean, I'm happy to address any specific concerns, but I don't know what the unintended consequences of adding an extra tool would be. I mean, if I give you an extra hammer or wrench, that gives you another way to approach something. So, yeah.
Delegate Hill, Watson, I'm sorry.
Thank you. So who did you contact at Montgomery County in order to find out or
I-
what the implementation
I don't know.
was?
I'd have to check with my chief of staff. I can text her and try to find that out.
Okay, so we don't have that information at this
We
point.
have anecdotal information from the folks that actually put the bills in.
It,
We've been watching that.
remind me, is the ability for the county to use this, is it mobile? I mean, in other words, is it something that they can go in and set up for a couple of weeks and then withdraw, or is it permanent on these streets?
I would assume it's permanent. I don't know why you would want to do it as a temporary. It's not like it's not like a speed board, like the speed boards that
Yeah.
communities request all the time. That is that's a
So-
different tool.
So I still think that we need that information from Montgomery County, and here's why. I mean, it's let me just back up. Is there, the county can use it at its discretion, right? It's not, in other words, a neighborhood can't petition for it.
No. I mean, as you know from working on the county council, usually when speeding issues come up, they do work directly with their county council member. So can they request it? This doesn't require a request for it, but that's generally what happens when you've got speeding concerns is somebody in the community comes to you and says, please help. Like the people are going so fast through our community, and we want them to slow down. And I know we did that on my street many years ago and said, like, we want to slow this down. In fact, we contacted then Delegate Guy Gazzoni, and I'm sorry, Councilman Guy Gazzoni, I should say, at the time, and he worked with our community, and we weren't able to lower the speed limit because it's not a tool they had.
Right, and currently in the county, if a neighborhood has, or maybe it's still not this way, but it used to be if a neighborhood has a speeding problem, they could talk to the county about speed humps. And in order to have those installed, they would have to take a petition around to all the neighbors and get a certain percentage to sign off. I forget what it was, but it was high. So it hardly ever worked in that situation. And one of the biggest complaints from the police department that the police department relayed to me during those years was when you set up speed enforcement in a neighborhood, the people most often that get upset about it are the neighbors, are the people that live there. Not the one, maybe the ones that requested it, but the other ones who are getting the speeding tickets because they're going over the speed limit.
Right.
Those are some of the unintended consequences. That's why I wanted to find out from
Right. These are not
the highways department in Montgomery County. If they came back and said, yes, we've used it, we've had no problems. You know, this is the process that we use, I'd be fine with it. I think though that it's our own due diligence to have that information before we pass this in Howard County, which is why I requested it last week.
which is why we attempted to get it, and we will work again on that. But I guess my what I'm trying to understand is that is a county specific. How do you decide whether a neighborhood really wants something? And I will tell you, speed humps are particularly controversial in a neighborhood. And they're also inappropriate on some of these very small streets. I personally trust the county to decide I mean, from my perspective, that is a county process on how you decide whether to use a speed enforcement in an area where some and not all have asked you to do that. And I trust the county. I mean, if we need to put this, table this another week for us to get that answer from them and not from the delegates who put the legislation in and who are interested in how it's going, I could get that answer.
Does Mr. Schechter, does the county support the bill? I can't remember. Is he
County does not have a position on the bill.
Do you know if the police chief is aware of the bill?
All of the local bills have been shared with all of the local departments. So I believe they are aware of it.
Delegate
As
Kazoni.
a reminder,
I'm sorry.
just a response to that, as a reminder, this came as a request from one of the council members.
Thank you for that reminder.
Delegate Kazoni.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just sort of trying to look at this in a little bit of a different way. I know that the county has a number of different traffic calming measures, some of which are intrusive. This strikes me as a far more low-key, less intrusive, less disruptive type of traffic calming measure. It's not a hump, it's not a circle, it's not a, narrowing of a road. It's a sign that says that the speed limit is lower than it would otherwise be. Right? Am I wrong on this?
No, that's correct. It seems to be much less intrusive from my perspective as well.
Delegate Wu.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I remember discussion with the county government about a speed bump. We feel people driving too quick on the road 25. I think their concern is there's some instance, right? They will respond. So they began to connect the data and doing something. And then at the same time, I think about what's the reasonable speed limit? And because 15 is really low. And in a lot of roads, but now we put 25. I've been testing this in my neighborhood, a few other neighborhoods, they put 25. I think people driving around 30 on those. One example in the village of River Hill is 25. And people around drive like between 20 and 30. So my concern is if we put 15 there, it's really like if you put 20, that's double the speed limit. That means you're clearly violate the speed limit. So I think that the question, if we put speed limit really low, people are violating, like not following speed limit. And I'm kind of it's a disservice we put some regulation there when no people follow. The same concern on highway. We put 55 but speed limit. Everybody is driving 70, right? I think always think about this question myself. What's the reason we put such a low speed limit? Nobody follows. And we say we're for the good of safety. At the same time, you put the speed limit, nobody follows. What's the point there? That's my question asking for that 15 speed limit. Is that too low, or why not we're going to 10, even lower? That even probably safer based on a lot of standard, right? And that's the question I'm asking here.
Thank you, Delegate Wu. Delegate Hill? You're on mute.
Thank you. Yeah. So I'm sort of getting back to Delegate Watson's questions, which I think had to do more with the enforcement. There's nothing here about putting cameras or enforcement. It just says that the county, after doing a traffic study, can lower it to as low as 15. I'm curious, Mr. Schechter, about how does the county make decisions about what the speeds should be? I would assume that same process would apply, that if there were requests or if there were significant problems with young kids getting hit, or if there was a neighborhood that had a housing for kids with particular disabilities, or a challenging crosswalk, that the county would consider whether it was a request or by the neighborhood or by the council, do the traffic study, and then make a decision about what the correct or appropriate speed limit would be. And this would allow them to go as low as 15, but it doesn't require them to. Can you explain what your process is to determine if you're going to change the speed limit in a neighborhood currently?
I will have to get back with you with some more specifics on how that is done. But my understanding is that, yes, you conduct a speed study and then you look at whether or not there are other ways to control speed other than the speed limit itself.
But
So
you don't know
there
if that's,
are.
you don't know if that's first choice. In other words, you don't know if they look at all the possible ways of mitigating the problem, or they say, first, can we do speed bumps, which I think would cost a lot more money? Can we do circles, which I think would cost a lot more money? Or can we just lower the speed limit? So my most recent experience is Route 1, which of course is a state highway, when we had the second fatality in a year, and we met with state highways and they talked about the delays there have been in the already approved pedestrian changes and things. They then said, and what we're going to do is lower the speed limit from 45 to 40 because that it was that simple. They just said we're going to go ahead and do it. And you don't know if that's as simple as it is that highway takes a look and says, we've got a problem here, let's lower the speed limit, or they have to go through a series that you just went through of other options first. Because I think this is pretty straightforward. If they want to lower it to 15, they can. If they don't want to lower it to 15, they don't.
Right. If it's supported by the evidence of that speed study, then that would be an option that they could employ.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hill. I would say that from my experience, I think what they look at is an option, whatever option they can to help relieve the speeding on a certain street. And you're right, like those other options are rather expensive. And so I think they would do a speed study to see if anything was appropriate, and then they'd probably try to use a less expensive option if that's possible and they believe it's going to be effective.
So Delegate Terrasa, from your understanding and your experience on the council, and I know Delegate Watson is too, when they're making those decisions as part of that process and part of the speed study to engage the neighborhood to say, here are the options and this is what we recommend, or do they tell the community this is what we're going to do for this problem?
Well, I would say, yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I mean, my experience has been there's a lot of discussion about it because usually it's a council member bringing it to the attention of the county, and they go and they're trying. It wouldn't make any sense to just bring in a solution that nobody on the on the street cares for. I do think with things like speed humps, there's certainly differences of opinions about those. But, it really depends on the community. Is it a small community? Can you bring everybody out? Can they talk to everyone? I mean, I think it's an iterative process.
Delegate Moreno, did you have a question? Or I saw your hand up and then down again.
Yeah, no, I was just going to respond to Dr. Wu's comments that the idea behind speed limits is to punish people for going over the speed limit. So if you lower it and the fine is higher, the idea is that it's supposed to change their behavior. That's all I was going to add.
Okay.
Yeah.
Delegate Watson.
What?
You have your hand up.
I do? Okay, sorry.
Oh, okay. Okay. Right. I would like to say that I do think this is an excellent place for local control, and we've certainly heard a number of these bills. Pedestrian safety is a huge concern for my constituents, I know, and we've seen a 70% increase in pedestrian deaths over the last decade. It's actually it's a big concern, and this is something that I would support. Delegate Hill?
Thank you. I just wanted to, I know Delegate Watson has asked for some additional information that she didn't receive from last. I just was curious if she felt strongly, I'm not clear on what the additional information would add, and I just would ask her to just help me understand if they said what, it might change because of what. I mean, I'm very respectful. You never asked for information that's not of value. I just didn't quite get what the value might be.
If I can respond to that, Madam
Please.
Chair.
Please.
We have one jurisdiction that's implemented this in the entire state.
2.
Well, they haven't actually used it though, you said.
Oh, I don't know that to be the case. I know that in the one case that.
Okay, well, I think that is the issue. We don't know what we don't know, Delegate Hill. And I just would like, and actually, I think we're going to be okay here because a council member who requested this just told me that she will get the information from Montgomery County
Okay.
that, you know, that we're looking for. If the Montgomery County comes back and says, we have had no unintended consequences, great. Or they might say, you know, the bill was passed like this, but we think it really needed to be this. That's information that would be valuable to what we're doing. Since we're not on a timeline where this has to be done today, I think it's important to wait for that information. So that's where I stand. Delegate Hill, any questions?
No, I think that explains it, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Wonderful. Any further discussion on the bill? I think we're going to hold the speed monitoring bill, Delegate Hill. Is that right?
No, we've
Do you
got.
wanna- do you want to have?
Yeah,
do
we
you-
have the two amendments. So, you know, again, when we requested the bill this year, the way it came out, because there have been amendments that the delegation put on, there was some confusion. And I did not do a good enough job at looking at the draft to make sure it was what we had placed. So there are two amendments that are offered, and Musa has sent them out to everyone's email that would put it, one amendment puts it in the position that we voted it out as a full delegation. The other would remove the sunset, which it had on it when we voted it out. We moved last week, I think, to take the sunset, and I think we already voted that amendment.
We voted and passed the amendment to remove the sunset
Right.
from the bill.
So we sent that around so people can see it. The amendment for consideration today would put it in the posture it was otherwise, which was to limit it to only Route 1. And there was some discussion last week that even though to get the bill out, we were sort of, as a House delegation, pressured to allow it to be taken down the route. We don't have the same time constraints now. And it is, you know, we as a House delegation may or may not decide that we're happy with the provision to narrow it to only one highway in the full county. So that's the amendment for discussion and possible vote today.
Okay, discussion on the amendment.
May I, Madam Chair?
Absolutely.
One piece of information I think I saw this week on this bill was that I had asked whether it would, whether it could apply to or did apply to Route 144 Main Street. We have a particular problem on the west end, and the response back was that the west end is a county road, or is it the reverse?
The west, I think, is the state, and the county owns it as it goes through Old
Right.
Ellicott
So
City.
I think the answer was that it would not be able to apply to that.
Right.
So it's not a solution for that particular problem, but it does sound like it's a solution for Route 1. And I'm confused about your amendment, Delegate Hill. Is the bill in a stance where it basically only applies to the Route 1?
The amendment is the amendment that we put on last, that was offered by the Senate, that they passed out of the Senate, and then we adopted.
And it was,
It limited the bill to only affect Route 1.
yeah. So I think that's reasonable, and for two reasons. One, it allows us to see how it works, and we can always expand it if we need to. And that area is in desperate need of help.
Yeah.
And the last question, Delegate Hill, is the enforcement or the resulting fines. Where would those funds go?
They go to traffic related.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Which
And
we had a
that's-
discussion about last year.
Right. There was a nexus
Yep.
that people felt needed to be there, so there is.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I don't have a problem with it, as you've explained. Thank you.
Delegate Gazzoni.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I just wanted to, because I have not had an opportunity to see the amendment. I just wanted to make sure that what we're doing is removing on page 3, lines 20 through 24, where it says on a highway identified in the county's or state's most recent strategic highway safety plan. That's what we're taking out?
Mr. Moriarty? If you can
Yes,
go
that
through
is
the
correct.
amendments, yeah.
It's written slightly differently just for a technical purpose, so it says on US Route 1, Washington Boulevard in Howard County, but yeah,
Okay.
in effect, it's lines 20 through 24.
Madam Chair, do we have that? Can we just see it?
Yeah, I was going to ask if it's possible to share your screen, Dara or Musa, if we could see the amendment.
I can.
I should have just given permission to you to share.
Okay.
Delegate Gazoni, did you have another?
No, I just wanted to thanks. I just wanted clarification that
Okay.
what it is now, it'll be 10 in Howard County, on US Route 1, Washington Boulevard in Howard County, or whatever it may be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great.
Suddenly getting blinded by sunlight, which is a good thing, but
Let's see, strike. Okay,
The first provision is just technical. It fixes the purpose paragraph. So it's
Could you just walk through that second one then? So we're on page 3.
yes. So let me just pull up a physical copy of the bill so I can discuss it. So on page 3, it would now read 10 on US Route 1, Washington Boulevard in Howard County.
so
Thank you.
So line 20A would still remain.
A would not remain. We would not
Not
need
remain,
to broken
yeah.
up into A and B. It would just be one provision in 10 that would just be for Route 1.
Got it.
Yeah.
great, thank you.
If there are no more questions, Madam Chair, I'd like to move the amendment.
Second,
Who said you want to call the roll?
Yes. This is a vote on the amendment to HOCO 926. Delegate Gazoni,
Yes.
Delegate Hill,
Yes.
Delegate Moreno,
Yes.
Delegate Tuasa,
Yes.
Delegate Watson,
yes.
Delegate Wu,
Yes.
Chair Ziegler.
Yes.
The amendment passes.
I'd like to move the bill as amended both this week and last week.
I'll second.
This is the vote on HOCO 926 as amended. Delegate Gazoni,
Yes.
Delegate Hill,
Yes.
Delegate Moreno,
Yes.
Delegate Tuasa,
You can come back. She's muted.
Delegate Watson,
Yes.
Sorry about
Delegate.
that.
Delegate Tuasa,
Yes, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize you didn't hear me.
Delegate Wu,
Yes.
Chair Ziegler.
Yes.
HOCO 926 passes as amended.
Wonderful. Thank you. We are at time. Thank you all very much for a robust discussion and got some work done, and have a great day, and we'll see each other next week.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank